This is Comic Picks by the Glick.
Hey, I'm your host, Jason Glick.
Hey, Jason, what's going on? What do you have on tap for us today?
Well, it's like today. It's the I don't know if you could call it like the abrupt ending or it's just like, hey, you kind of reach this natural ending like ahead of time. But I'm going back to like an author who I've featured like on this podcast and on the blog a lot, and that's Scott Snyder. He's a guy who made his name on Batman. First, writing like one arguably like the definitive Dick Grayson adventure with with his run on Detective Comics in the Black Mirror, which was so good that it gave basically like DC gave him like the reins to Batman at the start of the New 52 era, and like while that setup came with like a lot of pressure, it's like a lot of expectations, and like a high profile artistic collaborator in terms of Greg Capullo, um, like on the title as well. He nailed it, and basically like gave us like it's like some of the best Batman stories we'd read in a long while. And basically like every like major arc was like big like new adventure, like from the introduction of the Court of Owls like in the first arc to like the return of the Joker in Death of the Family to his reinvention of Batman Year One in Zero Year to hey Joker's back again in Endgame, and then the like like Commissioner Gordon taking over as Batman with like his Batbot. It's like like in the arc that closed out like the era. It's like that was like some great stuff. And after that, I was primed to like say, hey, I'm gonna follow Snyder wherever he goes because he just delivered like this awesome Bat stuff for like years and years on end. Fast forward to the present era, and well, it's starting to look like Snyder's work on Batman is probably like the high watermark of his career with me. Because while I did enjoy his work on American Vampire, which is like his creator-owned like series he did with Vertigo that got Stephen King to collaborate to contribute a story like for the initial arc, but it it was good, but it didn't but by the end of it, it just like didn't quite live up to its potential. It's basically like reconfiguring American history as basically a vampire side story. It's like as like with each arc went on. In fact, like some of the arcs were like more silly than anything else, and that was kind of disappointing. And then he also did his run on Justice League, which also had a lot of like co-contributor work from James Tynion the fourth, and it was good, but at the same time, it kind of also suffered from the fact that when you get to the very end of it, it's like it basically just said, "Oh nope, not gonna you're not gonna get your finale here. You got to go and read the death metal storyline that we're doing in order to get the final like arc of what I'm doing here." And that actually turned out to be like like Snyder's swan song for the DC because after he did that, he decided, what, hey, I want to go and just do like more stuff for myself. Like I want to just do like original creator owned work, like that, to show you to everyone else what I'm capable of, like beyond working in the DC universe. And he did that, working with working with Comixology, and like he did a lot of like original project with them that Dark Horse is now publishing through their end because they really looked into that, didn't they? But I I was not necessarily impressed with a lot of the stuff they did. Like his follow up miniseries with Greg Capullo called We Have Demons just had felt really safe and by the numbers in terms of a organization that's set to fight demons that turns out there's a traitor in the ranks, and oh my god, we gotta find out who it is. And that was kind of disappointing. And then there was like Night of the Ghoul, which had a interesting filmic setup, but then just kind of like just didn't do anything interesting with its setup by the end. Just like felt like really conventional. It's like in formulaic to the point where it's like he's got other digital comics to print stuff lined up with Comixology via Dark Horse, and I just don't really feel like all that interested in seeing and checking it out. And and then there's also his Dark Places stuff with IDW, with like the first one, wildfires. Um, Also just feeling like really obvious and safe and not really surprising. But basically, like a lot of his creator own work has basically felt like, oh, like he's got like a lot of like interesting ideas for this kind of worlds he wants these stories to take place in, but the execution is just basically safe by the numbers and really formulaic. Just like contrary to like like what he was doing with Batman, where he just kind of like trying to find like new angles on stuff that we hadn't seen for like in a property that we hadn't that we're familiar with, and like like we had like come to expect. His creative work is just they felt like hey like just like Link here like a great concept, and that'll be enough. And that's kind of like really been disappointing. And like I've really not felt like compelled to follow what he's been doing, like to the like like as things are going forward. Well, the exception though is with this series, Nocterra, which is what he which is what he's been working on with artist Tony Daniel and a couple other collaborators such as Dennis Cohen, Francis Manapool, and Liam Sharp on very special issues. But Daniel has been like the main artistic collaborator on this series, which has run for 16 issues and three specials, and it's basically reached its conclusion with this third volume. It's in the solicitations. It was described as the end of the first cycle of Nocterra, but it's like I honestly kind of wonder, is like like it reaches like a pretty definitive conclusion for the story it's telling, to the point where it's like, hey, if there's going to be more Nocterra after this, then it's going to be very, very different than what's come before. Um, Maybe it'll be more interesting, but I don't know. It's like Snyder's creator-owned stuff to this point is not inspired much confidence, if I'm being honest here. But as far as Nocterra goes, well, like it's got a really solid, interesting concept. Probably something that I would have been much more invested in if it had hit me in my teenage years, because it's got like a nice sense of absolutes, like absolute good, absolute evil, like in this strange new world, which is like defined by the big idea of what if the sun went down one day and did not come up. Basically, like the world we're living in is now called the Big PM, where it's like it's just all dark, and humanity has to like find its own light in order to survive. This can be like through various means, where it's like through a town that's like basically serving as a light bulb factory and is able to generate like all the light bulbs at once. Or what about a kind of like that was like a drive-in theater center and just like was able to just pull out all the like all the movies at once on it's like on various screens. It's like, or just like some towns that had like very powerful sun lamps. It's like or like just that kind of thing. Like there's a like Snyder has has a real love of dropping really esoteric, specialized knowledge. It's like in his stories, and sometimes it works really well. Other times it kind of feels like he's showing off. With Nocterra, it's kind of like an interesting middle ground in the sense that he like he gives you all this like specialized knowledge in order to like tell you like why these particular towns like have like the access to the light that they do, because because light is life in this world. It's like if you don't have light, then you're going to turn into a shade. Like a shade is basically like an evil, gnarled, monstrous creature that like that roams the world now. And like some and like these creatures are just breeding with each other, like creating like grotesque hybrids of of monsters and like other like familiar creatures like cats, possums, like wolves, dogs. It's like in whales. It's like in other like whatever any kind of like creature, including humans as well, because humans can turn into shades as well, and they are just like the nastiest like versions of the sponge. It's this world that our protagonist, Val Riggs, and her brother Emery, it's like are currently living in, and then making out livings as ferrymen. Or at least Val is. She's basically just like her job is to just get people who want to go from point A to point B, it's like intact, and it's like and that's what we're introduced to like to her doing. like at the start of the first volume. It's like we learned that she used to be blind, but like a cataract surgery restored her sight before the big PM. And it was also just in time for for her to witness like the sun going down forever. And that's kind of like something that the that Snyder like does like hits upon for each volume. Like each volume has a different narrator. For the volume one, it's Val. For volume two, it's like it's Piper, the like the son, the daughter of one of the of one of the people who may have um brought the sun down forever. It's like as we're told in volume one, and then volume three is like her brother Emery. So basically, it's all like just defining like the series from their point of view. Whether it's like Val's like experience of blindness in volume one, Piper's knowledge of math in volume two, and how fractions like and their big dividing line that kind of define the world to those around them, and Emery's scientific method about like if then what why because like how and how that defines his life and how it ties into the story itself. This is like interesting, but at the same time though, it's like it's the world building that kind of like really makes an impression. Just like the idea of a world defined by darkness. It's like, and then just people like trying to find a way to live in it. Like regardless, because humans can adapt to anything, even a world where that's just where the walls are constantly closing in around them, and like darkness is just like kind of like just like slowly like ruining their lives like regardless. And this is how like Val meets Piper and her grandfather like Augustus, because Augustus says he's got that classic self kind of world. He's saying like like I've found a way to bring light back to the world, and I need you to get us to this place. And Val is just like, of course, deeply skeptical of this claim. But the thing is, at the start of the story, Emery is also coming to the like to the shade transformation. Like he basically like spent too long out in the darkness, and now like he's slowly turning into a human based shade himself. And so Val basically figures that okay, if gonna have any chance of like saving my adopted brother, I've got to like take like let's trust that you're taking gonna like take me to a place where I can like have enough life to bring him back. And that's the thrust of volume one, Full Throttle Dark, where you know it's basically like hey like Val is just like like the skeptic who's just like like kind of forced to like like believe in other things again, as she has to like take these people to their new to their place. It's like, and like save her brother along the way, save her brother also, and also Piper and Gus from the guy who's trailing them, guy named by the name of Blacktop Bill. Bill is introduced as it's like as like the baddest of the bad, like not just like a killer, but a killer of killers. We're told early on in volume two, like in his special, that he was basically like a hitman who killed other hitmen for the mob. That's how bad he was, really. But also, like that was just his day job. I mean, his what he did for fun was just try and track down people who had survived um like traumatic events. Like basically their plane went down and they were the only ones who survived. He just go and try and like kill them on the day that they were just trying to celebrate their day of survival. That's how bad this guy is. And it's like, and yeah, he's meant to be like like evil above evil, like me, like bastard above bastards of anything else. Even though like the most distinctive thing about him, like for like like for the duration of his run, is his all black character design, because like contrary to like what everyone else looks like in the series, well, most everyone else, like he is just like a full on like black design, like just a human guy filled in with black, like on the page. And the person selling this to us is Tony Daniel, who had a who had like a run like on Batman Detective Comics, like illustrating part of Grant Morrison's run, and then also taking over for writer as writer and artist for the Detective Comics during the New 52 era. He is a guy it's like who like has done like some really good, it's like really distinctive superhero work like for DC over the years, and he really gets a chance to like cut loose like over these 3 volumes of Nocterra. Well, specifically the first volume, because I get the feeling with the first volume he had some lead time in order to like make sure this stuff looked really good, and his work on the first volume is like really detailed, really just like really impressive, and like great in how details like the action and whatnot. Maybe and yeah, it's like maybe it's not quite as detailed in volumes 2 and 3, but he does do a good job of like selling this story as a big blockbuster, action, science fiction adventure. Not really a horror story, because even though like there are elements of horror to this, like such as like, the whole like people like living in a world of darkness and like evil monsters like they're going to are being slowly corrupted to kill them by the darkness. Well, it's like he kind of pitches it as a big, like blockbuster action adventure, and it really the series really does kind of work on that kind of, it's like on that kind of level. It's like it's entertaining, it's stylish, but it really kind of hinges on on the idea of like this world in darkness, the big PM, rather than just offering up any major like twists to it. Probably the best twist that the series like delivers is in volume 2, which is when Bill like introduces us as the bastard of bastards. Finally finds out about the real big bad, like the darkness, the Avatar of Darkness, Nox. Like he finds out about Nox's real plan, and then realizes that there's no actual place for me in your world of darkness. Well, why don't I just go and like sign up with the with the good guys instead to take you down, bastard? So that I really liked. I liked the idea that hey, this guy that that was said was like a one note, over the top, like bastard of villainy, was now going to like had now found an angle to basically make him collaborate with them as things went on. And I was looking forward to seeing Snyder pull that off, except that's not what happens. By the end of volume 2, Bill is back on the side of villainy in the way that feels like, oh, okay, that's fine. I see what you're going. Like, can't actually have any like nuance here. Like, the good guys are good, the bad guys are bad, and that's how things are going to go to the end. And volume 2 kind of like left me hoping that, oh well, like, it implies that things are going to wrap up with volume 3, and that's basically what happens. I think that's for the best here, because volume 3 collects like another 5 issues of the main series plus 2 additional specials, Val the Val special and the Nemesis special. Now, really calling these like issues like specials are misnomers. Really, these like the Blacktop Bill special before them. These are basically like 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 proper issues of the main series, just illustrated by different people other than Tony Daniel. Dennis Cohen does did the Bill special in volume 2, and he did like some solid sketchy work there. But then you got Francis Manipool handling the Val special, and which basically like shows tries to introduce like a note of nuance into Val's storyline, like after like showing us like what she'd become after the end of volume 2, and basically implying that hey, she's like, well, we thought she was like one of the good people, like it's trying to imply that maybe she's not as good as we had hoped she was, but oh no, she's still one of the good people overall. And then you got the like the Nemesis special by Liam Sharp, which Sharp does in his new digital painterly style, which on one hand, it's not really good for clarity, as I've mentioned in my reviews of his like Green Lantern's work with Grant Morrison, and his work with adapting Garth Ennis's script for Batman Reptilia. Um this is actually probably like the best version of it that I've seen, because it's all about Bill chasing Emery through his mind. And it's like it requires like a sense of like unreality, something that's more like akin to the style of Bill Sinkovich, um, like than anything else. And it works like for the story, but it's like it's I will say that like it's kind of like more works more because like something that sort of requires a more impressionistic version of horror rather than actual story clarity. So there you go. But basically, with like Volume 3, No Breaks, it's like it basically involves like Val hooking back up with her team, and everyone just going to like the whole like what is the home of like the people who have like hoarded all the light to this point, EOS, and then them trying to convince them to like unleash this light in order to save the world and take out Nox, the Avatar of Darkness. It's it's like I think the best thing about this volume I can say is that while a lot of Snyder's work has kind of, especially his event stuff with DC, like in metal and death metal, is that he dude loves to just like go like play like play up the hopelessness of a storyline to the point where it's just like oh no, it's like everyone's like failing, nothing they do like succeeds, and oh wait until the very end when like the storyline demands that they succeed in order for there to be like another storyline after this. With No Breaks, it doesn't quite feel like the like things that feel like get to that point on a regular basis. Like it actually feels kind of balanced to the point where it's like everyone's like struggling against the darkness, and then just like yes, there's things the tide changes, but not in a way that just feels like oh my god. It's like it just feels like everyone's like suffering until the very last point that the story can sustain it if it's going to work. So like I think that No Breaks is a decent enough follow finish to the like to the series. It's like it's got Daniel's quality art. Snyder it's like does tells a story that doesn't like fall apart or buckle under the weight of it's like of like all the bad stuff that's happening to it. And so that's good. That's I like that. But at the same time though, it's like when I got to the end, I was kind of like, okay, this is fine. I don't think I need like anything else here. And even though like the story like in the Solicitations is billed as like the end of the first cycle, I really can't imagine like like the story like going like anywhere at like after this. Like I mean to be honest, like if the story like did have enough momentum, or if enough people have been reading it, I'm sure people like we'd be like I wouldn't be doing this podcast right now. I'd be like, writing up the review, volume 3 to read on the blog, and volume 4 would be like in the offing at this point. But I think that like 3 volumes of this storyline is perfectly fine. And if I was going to give like my biggest issue with this series is that I really kind of after I was done with volume 3, I kept thinking of ways that I would improve the storyline. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's like, Jason, it's like you're just a podcaster. You're just like, a critic. You're just like a wannabe influencer. What makes you think you can write something better than what Snyder and Daniel have delivered here? And yeah, you're right. It's like, I'm just a guy, I'm just armchair quarterback in this. But, it's like, hey, you're listening right now, so hear me out. Because I think that the story would have been much better served if Snyder had committed to Bill's face turn in Volume 2. Basically, like just like have Bill realize that Knox had no place for him in his new world, and then just have him like hook up with Sundog Convoy and like work with them because hey, like fighting against like the ultimate evil produces strange bedfellows, and I would like to see like how everyone like managed their morality. Basically, Bill having to put his like darker impulses on hold in realization that I need to like do this if I'm going to like like survive into a world that allows me to indulge all my like desires to kill people, and like everyone in Sundog basically just going like, well, we need this guy because he's got the knowledge and the skills to get us where we're going. It's like, and we've got to live with that. Just that kind of like tension right there. I wish that that kind of tension had been played out more. And also, what if Val had been like like posited with like the desire to create to like the initiative to join Knox. It's like just the idea that like, she was kind of like left hanging like at the end of Volume 2, and what if she was the one who had just been like cajoled to join Knox in his unholy crusade. Because like good people like fail, they buckle under the pressure, and what if she had been had wound up having being forced to be given had forced to be given in to like this overwhelming evil that was like basically positing like overwhelming with no way out. What what kind of what how would everyone else had in Sodog Convoy have dealt with being that way? Would they have like tried to give her the benefit of the doubt only to be killed, or would like Bill's presence on their side just basically like had them realizing that hey like she's one of the bad people, and now it's like you gotta like if you want to like save the world you gotta go against her. It's like that's what I would have really liked to have seen for this story. One that really just kind of played with like who is good, who is bad. Can bad people like do good things for the right reasons? Can good people do bad things? It's like if they're like pushed to the edge. Nocterra is not really interested in those kinds of questions. It's basically interested in like its big high concept world of like what if the sun never came up again and how do we get it back. That's that's where it's going. That's what it's concerned with. But so it's kind of like if you're interested, if you want to read this series, you got to think about do I want to read like a nice surface level like big blockbuster story about people bringing light back to the world, rather than just hey, what does it mean to be good, what does it mean to be bad when darkness is all around you. That's how it is. And Nocterra, definitely not bad, but at the same time though it doesn't really give me hope that Snyder's creator owned work is going to be really better than his Batman work, which is kind of weird because like that's not how the comics industry is supposed to work. That's where we are right now.
Yeah, so that sounds a very interesting analysis, to be honest with you, because like you said, it's usually the secondary works outside of the popular works that kind of how should we say it? At least I think that's what you're saying, is that it kind of tends to exceed sometimes the franchise work.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
like I
what you're
mean,
saying? Yeah.
yeah, you expect like a creator's like a writer's like work like when they're not working within the confines of Marvel or DC or like any other shared universe to be like like not quite as good. I mean, so you should like their work outside of like Marvel or DC to be like like better because like they're not working within the confines. Like they've got freedom to be do whatever they want. But Snyder, that that's not really turning out how it's turned out to be for him. At least
No.
as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, um, yeah, this has been an interesting analysis. So, do you know what you're going to be talking about next time?
Well, it kind of depends on what I get in the mail, but also I've still got like some 50 odd issues of Captain Marvel by Kelly Thompson to check out. So that's also on the table. So it could be that, could be something else, could be a mystery, but don't expect best of 2023 yet because that's I still got some stuff I want to like check out before that happens.
Yeah, sounds great. We'll catch you next time on Comic Picks by the Click.
Later, everyone.